Inshallah ta'ala, in this class we're going to look at how do you read Arabic without having harakat on them. The fatha, kasra, dhamma. How do you read without containing any of those and yet you'll be able to read? Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walahu wa ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, welcome to this new class. I'm your dear brother Mustafa Mahmoud, and inshallah ta'ala we're going to look at how do you get from zero to where you can read Arabic without harakat. Now I want you to look at this inshallah ta'ala on the screen, where you find something, a page or paragraph that has harakat on it, and then you find a paragraph which has no harakat on it, and you will see the difference. So you can know, okay, what's the difference of this and how does this help for this, and how do you get from that stage to that stage inshallah ta'ala. Now if you look at this is a book known as سلسلة تعليم اللغة العربية في كتاب التعبير. Now the book of Ta'bir, how do you articulate yourself? How can you read and understand? Look at this paragraph. It starts as قدم محمود من تركيا. I want you to look at the words, not the meaning per se, but look at the words. وبعد أن هبطت الطائرة ركب حافلة المطار. Alright? وحين وصل صالة القدوم نزل من الحافلة فقابل موظف الجوازات وقدم له جواز السفر وبطاقة الوصول. Now before we carry on, I'm just going to give you the meaning. I'm going to give you the meaning of what we just read, and then I want you to look at the things that we are going to look at together inshallah ta'ala. After that, we're going to look at another page, as we said, which has no harakat. And there are similarities which I want to show you so that you can see it's not magic that someone can just read without no harakat. It's a process that you have to go through in order for you to get there, inshallah ta'ala. Now look carefully. If you look at what we just read, قدم محمود. Mahmoud arrived min Turkiya, from Turkey. Now, in one of our previous classes, the class before this one, if you look, maybe there's a card that will pop up, or maybe on the playlist below in the description, do go through it. You'll notice that we looked at prepositions. And prepositions, we said that there are three types. Those which are specific for verbs, those which are specific for nouns, and those which work for both. Now, from among those, you'll notice that there was one that works for nouns, and that is min. Min, if you look at it over here now, in this case, you find that min Turkiya, the min has come in this paragraph or this sentence from Turkiya. وبعد أن هبطت, another preposition, هبطت الطائرة, okay, and the طائرة, when it landed, ركب حافلة المطار. ركب حافلة المطار. He mounted the airport bus. وحين, and when وصل صالة القدوم, when he reached the arrivals, at the arrivals, نزل من الحافلة, he came out unmounted from the hafila, from the bus. فقابل موظف الجوازات, then he headed to the employee of the jawazat, basically the immigration officer. وقدم له, and then he presented to him جواز السفر, his passport, وبطاقة الوصول, and his boarding pass for his arrival. Now look at this. It's easily read. Why? Because of the fatha and the kasra and the dhamma and the Arabic that you can see, because it allows you to read through without worry. Now look at this other paragraph. Sorry to interrupt your class, inshallah ta'ala. As we said, we have updates coming soon, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. Do consider subscribing to our channel. Do consider subscribing to our mailing list, bi'idhnillah. It will be much easier for you to receive updates. And do consider joining our Telegram group for further updates. One of the updates that we want to give you is that soon enough, inshallah, we'll be launching a 5-week Arabic boot camp for those who want to go from level 0 to a position where they can write sentences which make sense and read those sentences as well, inshallah ta'ala. But a simple requirement is needed. That requirement is you should be able to read, at the very least you can read some Quran and some Arabic if it's very clear, inshallah ta'ala. This is known to be as it is قصص القرآن للأطفال. It is قصص القرآن للأطفال. Now, this the stories of the Quran for little children. And it is written in the most simplest language so that you can be able to read. Now, when the ulama write this, when the scholars of Arabic, when they write these books, they don't just write for the children per se. They actually write for the beginners, للمبتدئين as well, so that they can have some grasp. And when you look at when they wrote these books, you'll be wondering, how does this look like a book for a beginner? You got to understand something. The ulama of yesterday and the scholars of yesterday, how they literally graded the standards of knowledge is different from the situation of today. I cannot say that there are no scholars compared to how they were yesterday today. Of course they are. And alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah, Allah has preserved the turath, the tradition, by keeping alive the scholars. Even if the scholars have passed away and the knowledge has been preserved by those before us, and they own the privilege of that. They have the upper hand. Remember, Allah has preserved the knowledge through the scholars that exist of today. But the standards of scholarlyhood and at the same time the standards of learning today, they have gone so low to a level where we don't understand that the grade of learning and also the level of learning of yesterday was different from today. Simple example I'll give you. If you want to study fiqh, because this is something that I can understand quickly, for a student to be known as a student of fiqh, for example, in the fiqh of Malik, the fiqh of Imam Malik, the madhab of Imam Malik, you notice that you need to go through. First of all, you can study Al-Ashmawiyya, which Al-Ashmawiyya did not exist and then it came. And then maybe Al-Akhdari, Matn Al-Akhdari, and you notice from this either you can go Al-Akhdari or you can do Ashmawiyya, one of them. Because these are two beginner texts, but they overlap one another because of the masail which one can have, the other one does not contain. Bear that in mind. And then after that you can go to Ibn Ashir. When you finish Ibn Ashir, you can take it up a notch a little bit, and then you can go to Risala, Al-Risala Ibn Abi Zayd Al-Qayrawani. And then after that you go further than that, Tadrib Al-Salik. And then when you finish Tadrib Al-Salik, now you come to Aqrab Al-Masalik. Now the standard was for one to reach, to be at least called a student of the Maliki madhab, not the Shaykh of the Maliki madhab, you must have read the book after Aqrab Al-Masalik, which is Mukhtasar Khalil. And Mukhtasar Khalil was a text that was revised every single year, at least once. And this is literally for the latest time after maybe on the 11th century. That's what we're talking about. Imagine that, or the 10th century. That's the closest that we can look at the Turath, how far it reached for us to get to the position where we are right now. Now, if you look at how it was, some of the ulama even say, for example, like in Mauritania, if you wanted to marry the daughter of a sheikh, you should come to the father, and you've already memorized Mukhtasar Khalil. Think about it. You have memorized Mukhtasar Khalil. That was the standard of knowledge then. So for one to read without no Harakāt at their time, that was minor. Because this is not the end and the pinnacle of Arabic. Because remember, there's Arabic rhetorics that you need to learn properly. There's Arabic literature that you need to learn properly. There's poetry in Arabic that you need to learn on how to form poetry on top of that, and far beyond that. وَاللُّغَةُ الْعَرَبِيَّةُ لَا يُحِيطُهَا إِلَّا نَبِيٌّ. There's no one that can be able to grasp the Arabic language in its entirety except for a prophet. Bear that in mind. Even the Arabs of the time when the Quran was being revealed, you notice that they were not able to understand the Quran in its depth. Why? Because some of the masail and also the issues that were provided, only the Prophet ﷺ was able to do what? To explain them. And all of that was just language. It's just Arabic. If you read it through, the simplest language that you will get is the Arabic language that it provides you, and a just clear meaning. But does it stop there? It doesn't end there, no. Why? Because when the ulama looked at the Quran, they noticed that it's not just about Quran. Actually, it's far and beyond that. Some of the scholars, what do they say? They say that not the scholars of Arabic are the ones who dictate the principles of Arabic, but actually the scholars of usul. Now, when we say usul, what do we mean? basically the principles of sciences. These principles of sciences, especially the principles of jurisprudence, of fiqh basically, usul al-fiqh, they are the ones that literally do what? They govern the Arabic language. Because they would dispute on the most minute issue, extremely small, yet big at the same time. Bear that in mind. They would literally dispute on a simple word, such as qur. What does qur mean? But this is not to discourage you. This is to give you more a morale, basically, or maybe to build your motivation inside to understand. Okay, so this is not hard. This is not hard. It's easy. That's the whole purpose. You shouldn't look at it, in the lens that, okay, then this is going to be hard, I wouldn't be able to do it. You have to understand, if the standards have gone down, then that means I can reach to that level. So it's achievable. That's how you should look at it. Because of that reason, you can achieve it. And if you look at this text now, you'll realize it seems quite mind-boggling, but in reality, it's actually the same words that we've been looking at in the previous lesson. So if you look at the playlist below, inshallah ta'ala, you'll notice that in the previous lesson, we've been covering some certain elements that are required in order for one to be able to read Arabic, inshallah ta'ala. Now look. يحكى أنه كان هناك في بني إسرائيل شيخا كبير السن, old of age. Okay, old of age. That's what we would say. Now look at one of the reason why I'm using preposition, because it's a very recent class, and due to that, it's easy for those who are following up with these classes, inshallah, to relate to what I'm saying. Literally. Now look at this. As we said, among the prepositions which work for either nouns or verbs or for both, you notice that we covered fi. Fi meaning in or at. Any one of these two. Understood? It's as simple as that. But what you realize is that fi is used. Fi is used. وَذَلِكَ فِي عَهْدِ نَبِيِّ اللَّهِ, the Prophet of Allah. وَكَلِيمِهِ مُوسَى عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ وَكَانَ كَثِيرُ الْمَالِ, lots of wealth. وَكَانَ عَقِيمًا لَا يَلِدُ لَهُ وَلَدُهُ وَلَا وَارِثَ لَهُ إِلَّا ابْنُ أَخٍ لَهُ. Now, let me use, look at this. هَذَا. If you go back to our very early class that we had, which is lesson 1, you notice that هَذَا was used. هَذَا, or maybe say the second class, if I'm not wrong, 1 or 2. If you go through the classes, you'll remember. هَذَا, هَذِهِ, we use those. ذَلِكَ, تِلْكَ, we use those. And then in our previous class, we looked at what? Min, an, ala, fi, all of these prepositions. La, lan, lam, for example, like those. Now look at this. You notice the following. هَذَا, this, min, from jihatihi, his side. Amma, but, however, min jihat ibn akhihi, from the side ibn akhihi, of his cousin, basically, his nephew, basically. فَقَدْ كَانَ, look at qad, look at the word, look at the preposition qad. Qad, we said that also from among the many usage that it could have is that qad can be used. Qad can be used for past tenses, for past tense or present tense. One of those. Simple. Now, this is the reason why I'm showing you all this, is so that you realize, okay, so everything that we've done from the little that we've covered here and there of the lessons, so we've reached up to now, we've reached up to this stage where I can see qad, I can see min, I can see certain word. And for those who literally followed up on compounding words, which is known as idafa, you can see some of those coming through, two words combined together to form a complete meaning, because those are among these topics that we covered. You notice that it's as simple as that. It's not rocket science at all. But how does it start? Like, where do you start from for you to get to that level, inshallah ta'ala? Now, let me show you. First thing first that you need to understand is that Arabic consists of vocabulary. Arabic consists of vocabulary, number one. And then there's grammar. And then there's morphology. And there's morphology. Now, there's more than this. Actually, when it comes to Arabic in itself, there's 12 sciences related to Arabic alone. That's what it is. للعربية 12 مادة. Don't forget that. There are 12 sciences for Arabic. But we only need 3 in this case. We only need 3 first of all. Okay? When it comes to ilm al-insha, is how to put together vocabulary for you to articulate yourself. Bear that in mind. But you cannot do that without the other 2 elements that you require. Before we look into Arabic literature or Arabic rhetorics, for you to use those elements, those tools, we don't want to look into that first. We want the most simplest ability first. For example, look at this. How do I, as a student who wants to become a student of knowledge, to begin with Arabic, how do I come to a level where I can say ذهب محمد إلى المسجد. Now look at this. Let me wipe out this and this and this, and let me put these harakat on. ذهب محمد إلى المسجد. Now I know these harakat. Now something I want to show you. The beauty of knowing how these harakat work. Look at this. ذهب, this is a past tense verb. Okay, I'll keep it as that. I wouldn't want to give you more details. Okay, Muhammadun, grammatically, it ended with a dhammatain. It doesn't matter whether 1 dhamma or 2 dhammas. If you don't know what dhammas and fathas are, then I'll just mention it to you as simple as it is. The fatha and the dhamma and the kasra, these are diacritics, which are the most common. Basically, they are the ones used every now and then. You wouldn't find any more than this. Basically, you would find others, but these are the ones which 90% of the time, they are the ones that repeat. Fatha, kasra, dhamma, sukoon. Fatha, kasra, dhamma, sukoon. And if you find others, it's literally the 2 fathas, the 2 kasras, the 2 dhammas, and the sukoon. You find those. And then we have the other one, the standing alif, and all of that. But you don't want to get into those first. First, just focus on the most simplest of all. Because these ones that we are looking into are the foundation for you understanding, okay, who is the victim, who is the doer, the one who did the action, and how do I separate between the two? How do I know the details of the sentence? How do I understand how to provide the sentence correctly, inshallah? So look carefully. ذهب محمد. Now this tells you that Muhammad is the doer. The Muhammad is the doer of this action, that he went. Because this ذهب means went. Who went? Muhammad went. He went, isn't it? Ila is the preposition. I'll just keep it like that. Preposition which literally causes the noun to end with a kasra. But is it a literal kasra? Not in every case. Not in every case. I'll just say that. I want to use the most simplest language so you can understand. I wouldn't want to give you the Arabic terms. Forget about the jar and the khafd. In the state of jar and khafd, forget about that. That is grammatic. I just want you to understand. It will end in a state of kasra. Sometimes it does not end in a state of kasra, but just know if there is ila or min or ala, any of these, and I've just given you 3 in this case, but go to the previous class inshallah, you'll see those which work for nouns, specifically the ones that we've mentioned bi'idhnillah. Those they cause that word that comes after it to end in a state of to end with a kasra. Sometimes it's the actual kasra, sometimes it's not. Bear that in mind. Sometimes it's the actual kasra, sometimes it's not. Bi'idhnillah al-kareem. It can be other signs that you find there, other types of inflections which will relate to you. Okay, that this, however, is in a state of kasra as kasra, but not kasra as in itself. So look carefully. إلى المسجد, because we're trying to simplify it. See, it ended with a kasra. If I am to say masjida and there is ila, would I be correct? The answer is wrong. If I am to say masjidu, okay, masjidu, look, masjidu, is that correct? It's wrong, because this here causes the next word, which is definitely a noun. As we said, prepositions, there are those which work for nouns, those which work for verbs, and those which work for both. Cause the word to end in a state of kasra. Now, do you notice this? What has happened now? This is the essence of grammar. All of this that we've just mentioned is grammar. Okay? All of this that we've just mentioned is grammar. Now, something that we want to look into. Okay, if that's grammar, where does morphology fit in? Simple question. If that's grammar, where does morphology fit in? This is what I want you to look to understand. Look, morphology fits in, for example, when it comes to the word dhahaba. Look at the word dhahaba. Dhahaba, we said up there, if you look at this, dhahaba Muhammadun. We said Muhammad. I'm going to write it like this. Okay? Muhammadun. ذهب محمد. Muhammad. This over here, ذهب means Muhammad went. As simple as it can be. Muhammad went. Now because of this Muhammad went, what you realize is that what if the word Muhammad does not exist? What if the word Muhammad does not exist? Okay, Muhammad does not exist. How do I know? Look, ذهب. It definitely means he went. That's what it means. Lakin, what if I want to say that he is going? How do I say that? I use the same ذهب, but then things change and add a little bit. I add a ya at the beginning, يذهب. Now, how do I know to add this ya? How do I know to change the diacritics of the rest of the word? How do I know how to do that? That's where sarf comes in, which is morphology. Another one, for example, I'll give you. We used the word masjid, isn't it? What if this masjid, it terms, you want to say one masjid, you want to say masajid, the plural of masjid. The plural of masjid, it is masajid. This is plural, by the way. Okay? This is plural, masajid. How do you know how to say masajid? Understood? You would only know through morphology, okay? Morphology. Now, if you look at the word morph, you notice that morph in itself, what does it mean? It means that the word changes from one thing to another. You morph from one shape to another shape. That's what it is. From one state to another state. So morphology does that. Teaches you, okay, these words can change from one state to another through this process. Understood? But the king of all from the three that we've mentioned, and perhaps you might be wondering, oh, he hasn't passed your mind yet. In any case, however, vocabulary is the king. Because everything that we've covered over here is vocabulary related. Look, ذهب is a vocabulary on its own. Muhammadun is a vocab on its own. Ila is a vocabulary. Al-masjid is a vocabulary. How many of them? They are 4. Understood? They are 4 words. This sentence consists of 4 words in order for it to be complete. If your vocabulary range now is very small, basically it's very little, you only have a few vocabulary in your pockets or maybe in your bag of the Arabic language, you would suffer a lot. Bear that in mind. You wouldn't be able to go to put together sentences. That's number 1. Number 2, with the vocabulary, however, if you don't have the tools to govern the vocabulary correctly and navigate them in the right direction, what happens is that you will be making lots of mistakes. Basically, as they say, you might sound like a caveman. You will sound as a freshie. That's what it is. So you have to be really careful. Now, when it comes to Arabic reading, what are the skills required in order for one to be able to to come to a position where they can read without harakat? We've already mentioned you need grammar. We've already mentioned we need vocabulary. And to top it all, which is the cherry on top, we said that we've already mentioned as well that you need what? We said grammar and morphology, and the cherry on top is vocabulary. You gather those three, you put those three together, you'd have a huge ability of understanding Arabic in itself. Now, something that you need with you as well for you to be able to do that is the following. Look, you need to have the ability, to read, and the ability to write. To write what and read what? Both of them. To write Arabic and read Arabic. Because if you want to be able to understand what you are reading, you should be able to write it. If you want to be able to understand what you are reading, you should be able to write it as well. You don't just read and not be able to write. It will be very difficult for you to put the two together. This is what happens. Let me tell you this. You might be able to speak Arabic, but speaking Arabic is a very different skill compared to reading and writing Arabic. Reading and writing Arabic go hand in hand, but speaking the language itself as Arabic does not require you to read and write. It doesn't. But reading and writing can lead to your ability to speak properly. Understand this, and I'm going to repeat it again. Speaking Arabic does not grant you the ability to read and write Arabic. But reading and writing Arabic grants you the ability to do both reading and writing, including speaking as well. Because all of what you need to do is this. Now look at this. Look at this. Among the things that we learn when it comes to Arabic, you notice we've looked at what? We've looked at this text, which literally provides you with a paragraph of a story. And then we looked at what? We looked at this as well, which provided you as a paragraph. But you see this paragraph that we have here, it did not start as a paragraph. Actually, it started as a conversation. Aywa. Conversation. And where is it? Shuf. Al-Hiwar. MashaAllah. Shuft. Al-Hiwar. Conversation. The word Al-Hiwaru means conversation. Conversation. Now, through this conversation, you are doing three things. You are reading. Okay? You are writing. Okay? And at the same time, you are speaking. Because in order for you to be able to understand this, you should be speaking it. Understood? You should be speaking it. And at the same time, you should be reading it. And at the same time, if you want to get better, you should be able to write it. That's how it is. So let's read a little bit of this conversation, which already contains diacritics on it, so you can understand what I'm talking about, inshallah. شوف. موظف الجوازات, the immigration officer. من أين أنت قادم? من أين? Now look at min. We said it's a preposition, isn't it? From where? أين means where. أنت means you. قادم. Coming from, basically. You've arrived from where? Mahmoud says, أنا قادم. I have arrived من تركيا. I'm arriving from Turkey. موظف الجوازات. موظف الجوازات. Now notice this. This is compounding words. الإضافة. We call this الإضافة. Let me write this down properly somewhere. We call this what? الإضافة. Don't mind my handwriting. Al-Idafa. What is Al-Idafa? Al-Idafa is compounding words that you put together, two of them, to form a complete meaning. If they're put alone, they wouldn't form a meaning. Ahlan bik. Welcome. Hal tasmahu. Basically, don't you mind, wouldn't you mind, بجواز السفر وبطاقة الوصول. Wouldn't you mind to give me the passport and the boarding pass? Mahmoud says, تفضل, marhaban, basically. Yes, of course, no problem at all. شكرا, thank you. محمود يتجه نحو بوابة الخروج. Mahmoud is heading towards the exit gates. That's what it is. موظف الجوازات. إلى أين أنت متجه. Now the immigration officer asks, إلى أين, to where, أين أنت, you متجه, headed. Where are you headed? Mahmoud says, أنا متجه, I am headed towards basically بوابة الخروج, to the exit gates. موظف الجوازات, the immigration officer says what? اتجه إلى بهو صالة الجمارك أولا. اتجه, it basically go, head to the customs area first. That's what he said. في بهو صالة الجمارك. That's what he was saying. You go to the area of the customs. Jamarik, al-Jamarik is customs. Notice when you go to the Arabic, to the Arab lands, maybe if you go to the Middle East, you notice that Arabic is written as well. And you notice when you see customs, it's written Jamarik, al-Jamarik. So you've learned a new vocabulary. How did you learn it? You learned it by reading it. You've learned it by listening to it. And also you've learned it by doing what? Speaking it and writing it at the same time. That's how it works, ikhwat al-kiram, inshallah ta'ala. So when it comes to being able to read Arabic from a level where now you cannot basically read Arabic without diacritics, you need to start somewhere. And from among the previous classes we mentioned, how does a student get from zero to a position where now they can do all of this? One of them is that the essentials, if you cannot read, then first you need to learn how to read. And learning how to read is a skill on its own. And then when you finish learning how to read, then that's when now you can start learning the rest of gathering vocabulary, also learning grammar and morphology. That's when those come next, together with Arabic writing. Understood? Although Arabic writing is a science of its own. So you notice if you look at this, how many sciences have we covered? We've covered vocabulary 1, we could say ilm al-insha, we could cover also at the same time, which is an insha is beyond vocabulary, but you're being tested on how you can articulate yourself by putting together sentences using the vocabulary that you've memorized. That's what it is. And then grammar, number 2, and then sarf, number 3, and then writing, imla, number 4. Those are the things that you've done. And then you have qira'ah, which is reading, and all of those, inshallah ta'ala. That is the process of a student of Arabic. If one wants to get from level 0 to a level where now they can do all of that, that's what they're required to do, inshallah ta'ala.